Chapter 21. Nothing else. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 21. Nothing else. Noel. And Xiao Changxian was stunned for a moment, and then laughed out loud. He didn't expect such a reason. Who doesn't like to be praised by others? Everyone has a love of beauty, and the little girl heard about her good reputation, and it was not a big deal to take a second look. 4 princes. I have never heard of such a saying, so tell me, who are the 4 princes? Xiao Changxian just said, who is there in the capital, who is qualified to be compared with himself? The king of Zhilan Yushichen County, who smiles like the prince of Lanjuemu, the 4th prince with a heavy waist and pan temples, and Jichunyu like Xing Sailang. Xie Jiwei was not restrained or shy, as if he was saying something extremely wonderful. Xiao Changxian frowned, feeling displeased. Who are these 4 young masters chosen out of boredom? It is true that the other 3 people, whether it is Xiao Sun, Mu Guihong, the son of Prince Pingnan, or Zheng Jingyan from the Princess Dagon's mansion, do have the strength to stand shoulder to shoulder with him in terms of identity, status, talent and appearance. Man, are you out of words? Others are all Zhilan Yushu, smiling like a bright moon, and enjoying the joy of 9 springs. When he comes to him, there is only a heavy waist and pan temples left. What has he become? Is there a boy in the bar? Xie Jiwei saw Xiao Changxuan's displeasure cast on her face. She was slightly happy, but her face showed a bit of restraint and fear. Your Highness, the 4th prince, if there is nothing wrong, can my daughter leave? My daughter still has to go. I'm looking for Sister Yuanjia. Go, oh yes, since you are Yuanjia's playmate, I might as well teach you a few words. Girls should know how to be reserved and understand what it means not to listen to indecent words. The Xie family is still a dignified Zanying family. Why don't the young masters and ladies in the mansion understand the rules? Xie Ji lowered his eyes slightly. It turned out that at this time, Xiao Changxian was already dissatisfied with the Xie family, but why? She exhausted all her strength to suppress the tumbling emotions. Her voice was slightly stiff. Yes, my daughter. Law will leave. Unexpectedly, the other party stopped her again. Miss Xie, are you blaming me for admonishing you? Xie Jiwei looked up at him in surprise. His eyes were calm and indifferent. Xiao Changxian became more and more displeased. Is the eldest daughter of the Xie family so shallow? Or did he rely on the lintel of Xie's family and didn't take his admonition seriously? You don't like what I said? Your Majesty, this is the first time I saw His Majesty the 4th Highness today. I didn't expect to make His Majesty so displeased. My daughter, my daughter. Feel ashamed. Wiping tears, suddenly, the body seemed to be a little unstable, and fell forward. Xiao Changxian didn't think that the 10-year-old girl had any thoughts. He hurriedly stretched out his hand to help. Xie Jiwei jumped up in fright when he saw him stretching out his hand. As he waved his hand, the handkerchief in his hand seemed to sweep over the right side of Xiao Changxuan's waist. The hanging sachet took a few steps back and fell into Mu Xiang's arms, barely standing still. Your Majesty the 4th Highness forgives your sins. The courtier is really sad. Just now, I was rude. The eldest daughter of the Xie family was just like that. Xiao Changxian frowned slightly, with obvious displeasure in his eyes. Su Shou hurried over. 4th Highness, the Emperor is going to the South Study Room soon, and needs to check your Highness's homework. Your Highness, hurry back. Xiao Changxian became anxious when he heard this, and turned around and left in a hurry, ignoring Xie Jiwei. Xie Jiwei looked at Xiao Changxuan's back. A smile slowly formed on the corners of his lips. She didn't intend to do anything in the palace, there are so many people. But Xiao Changxian died. If she didn't fulfill it, she would also be in debt to God. The heavens couldn't stand it anymore. Unexpectedly, the Emperor summoned Xiao Changxian as soon as she made a move. For the rest, she just had to wait for the good news. Just now, she got a little closer to Xiao Changxuan's kung fu, and flicked a piece of nail stone whey powder into Xiao Changxuan's sachet. In the previous life, Xiao Changxian liked to use Yuelin incense, which has an extremely complicated formula. Among them, 5 liang of agarwood incense, 2 liang each of clove incense, chicken bone incense, delupo incense, and jiaxiang, 2 liang each of smoked land incense, white sandalwood incense, cooked jiaxiang, and charcoal powder, linglingxiang, huixiang, and green cinnamon, bai jiangxiang, qingmuxiang, and sweet rosin, 1 or 2 each, sparrow head incense, styrax, benzoin, musk, and yinxiang, each in half. After making powder, sprinkle it with wine to soften it, mix it with white honey, and put it into porcelain in the middle. After the wax paper was sealed, Dong Yue opened it. If the sparrow head incense in it is mixed with sherwei powder, and then smoked for heating, it will produce a very smelly smell like feces. The sachet is hanging on the right side of Xiao Changxian. He is a person who wants to show his calmness. Let the heat out, and then, you can see a good show. Xie Jiwei was about to leave. Behind a 200-year-old camellia tree, Xiao Sun came out with his hands behind his back. He was wearing a dark gold brocade robe with 8 treasures and lotuses on a sapphire blue background, and a blue and white jade belt with hollow dot-out cloud and dragon patterns around his narrow waist. With a small seal, it is as bright as a jade tree facing the wind, with a dragon and a phoenix, and its temperament is outstanding. Mu Xiang was stunned for a moment, and hurriedly saluted, "I will see the king of Qinjun." Xie Jiwei was also surprised, and instantly thought that Xiao Sun is not such an easy fool person, and his expression became very ugly. The courtiers see Prince Chen. She didn't expect that Xiao Sun was here, and she didn't know when he came. How long has he been hiding there secretly? Xiao Sun glanced at Xie Jiwei, and there was a smile that ordinary people couldn't see hidden in his eyes like a deep pool. "Thanks to Miss Xie's love, I gave you a comment from Jilan Yushu. I am flattered. I heard that Mr. Xie is very good at chess. Ancestors must have grandchildren, Miss Xie must also be good at chess. I wonder if this king is lucky enough to have a hand-to-hand game with Miss Xie." Xie Jiwei only heard that, like a father, like a son. This is the first time she heard such a fallacy. She didn't want to talk to Xiao Xuanshou at all. Xie Jiwei would never talk to each other easily until he found out the other party's intentions. Confrontation. It is because of this caution that in her previous life, she was able to survive until the end. Mu Xiang's complexion changed drastically. She looked at Xie Jiwei rather embarrassed. After all, Nanny she had promised to bring Miss Xie to the eldest princess. Xiao Sun didn't give Xie Jiwei a chance to say no. He turned his head and said to the little behind him, "Yinhu, go tell the eldest princess that this king brought Miss Xie to Nanshufang to play chess." Go to Nanshufang to play chess. Xie Jiwei took a deep breath. Was it what she thought? Xie Jiwei raised his head to look at Xiao Sun, who only glanced at her indifferently, turning a blind eye to the doubt in her eyes, turned around and walked towards the south study room, not afraid that Xie Jiwei would not follow. Mu Xiang has no choice. The only thing she can do right now is to follow Miss Xie and never leave her. Yunhu agreed and ran away quickly. In the blink of an eye, Xiao Sun was already 10 steps away. Xie Jiwei struggled for a moment, seeing Xiao Sun stop, tilting his head as if admiring a pot of asters on the side of the road. The purple petals were upturned, like a girl. It is so delicate, and the tender yellow stamens are dotted in it, which looks plain and suitable, but he doesn't know why this flower provoked him. He actually kicked it. The flower pot spun around on the spot, and then leaned on a pot of chrysanthemums next to it. The 2 potted flowers collided with each other, and the petals fell like rain. Xie Jiwei only felt his calf hurt, so he trotted 2 steps to keep up. Xiao Sun didn't turn his head back. He raised his feet again and walked away. He was speechless all the way. His pace was unhurried. His eyes randomly swept across the scenery of the imperial garden in autumn. He seemed to be strolling in a leisurely courtyard, but he didn't seem to see anything in his eyes. Xie Jiwei was in a hurry, but he was able to keep up. Trying to save the manuscript. Please vote, please collect. End of this chapter. Chapter 22. Framed. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 22. Framed. Xie Jiwei was barely able to keep up. Even so, when she walked to the south study room, her calf was also throbbing with pain, but fortunately, she was only about half a cup of tea later than Xiao Changxian. The emperor has just arrived and is sitting on a chair, drinking a cup of tea. Why are you here? Seeing Xiao Sun, the emperor was surprised, especially when he saw Xie Jiwei. He forgot that he still had a cup of tea in his hand, and almost spilled the tea with a flick of his sleeve. Nephew sees Uncle Huang. Xiao Sun saluted, glanced at Xie Jiwei who followed behind him, and said to the emperor, Uncle Huang, nephew met Miss Xie in the imperial garden, and asked her to have a chat. On this side, the princes were trembling and stood before the emperor one by one bowed. On the other side, Xiao Sun and Xie Jiwei sat on the short bench under the south window. On the short table, the little quickly set up a torreya wood chessboard with pieces made of by Yakshuanyu. After guessing the pieces, Xie Jiwei took the white. Xiao Sun casually set up a sun in Dongwenanjiu, raised his eyebrows and looked towards the emperor. At this time, the eldest prince was reciting, the Sodat called Chi-Chi's family is cultivating his body, people love him and love him, avoid what you despise and hate, avoid what you respect and respect, avoid what you mourn, and avoid what you admire because of indolence. Therefore, if you like it, you know it's evil. After reciting a paragraph, the emperor asked, what's the explanation? The eldest prince wiped the cold sweat off his forehead, and stammered, the reason why the sage said that Chi-Chi's family is in order is to be able to cultivate one's body. People in the world will inevitably have prejudice against those they like, and those they don't like. People have. The eldest prince is fond of martial arts, but he doesn't love literature, and he never hides it, which is well known throughout the court. The emperor threw the teacup in his hand on the table violently, his face covered with frost. Emperor Shokong was less than 40 years old, wearing a crown of 2 dragons playing with pearls and wings, a dragon robe with a round collar and narrow sleeves, and a jade belt around his waist. He should have just arrived from the court and had not had time to change his clothes. Gao Xiaotian knelt on the ground with a plop, cold sweat pouring down his forehead, his whole body trembling like a sieve, unable to utter a single word to beg for mercy. Gao Xiaotian was the scripture master chosen by Emperor Shokong for the princes in the 6th year of Shokong. During the reign of the first emperor, he was the #1 scholar in the 3rd year of Jianyuan. Prominent. Xie Jiwei pinched a white ball with 2 slender white fingers, her hand was whiter than a child, she took a look at Xiao Sun, and dropped a ball in Zizenbayer. Xiao Sun didn't even look at it, just picked up a piece and dropped it on a random place, and looked at the emperor casually again. The 4 elder princes all knelt down, and the emperor said angrily, "Fourth, you recite it." Xiao Changxian was overjoyed, his eldest brother took up the position of the eldest son, and he was the son of a noble concubine. He thought he was the most honorable prince without a queen. Xiao Changxian stood up quickly, and recited it eloquently, his voice was up and down, his head was shaking from side to side, quite like a saint, and then, without waiting for the emperor to take the exam, he explained the meaning in a reasonable manner. The emperor nodded as he listened, and it was obvious that he was very satisfied. Finally, there is a son who can stand up for him. L.Rg Xiao Changxian breathed a sigh of relief, the so-called pi. At this moment, a strange smell came into his nostrils. It seemed to come from his body. The smell was incomparable. Immediately, he panicked. Could it be that he didn't wipe it clean after changing his clothes this morning? The emperor and others were close to Xiao Changxian, and they could smell it too. Even the eldest prince and others could smell it very clearly. It's just that the emperor got angry just now, and they didn't dare to raise their voices, and just endured it blindly. The 3rd prince couldn't stand it anymore. He was the closest to Xiao Changxian. When he looked up, he could see Xiao Changshuan's butt, which made him feel like he was smelling Xiao Changshuan's butt. Ass. Why is it so smelly? The third prince was most liked by the emperor because of his upright character, and he spoke without concealment, and even forgot that there was a woman in the south study. Xiao Changxian was sweating all over his body, and the stench was getting heavier. He was panicked. Seeing the emperor's face becoming more and more ugly, his legs softened, and he knelt down on the ground. Your minister is disrespectful in front of you, please father. Punishment. At this moment, he recalled, even if the buttocks were not wiped clean, why couldn't smell the smell for a long time, and the smell became stronger and stronger at this time. Xiao Changxian slightly tilted his head to look at the eldest prince. He didn't think about anything other than the eldest prince. It must be that the eldest prince didn't recite the book just now, but he recited it very fluently. Seeing that his father was very satisfied with him, the eldest prince became jealous. Only then will he disregard the king and do something to himself. He is also too courageous. Father, my son thinks that someone is going to harm my son. Xiao Changshuan's face was covered with sweat. It was too shameful, he must smash the eldest prince to pieces. The eunuchs quickly opened the windows, and the wind blew away the smell in the house, but the smell was still unpleasant. Xiao Sun picked up a black stone, and dropped nearly 20 pieces back and forth. He seemed to be free at this time, glanced at the chessboard, said, looked at Xia Jiwei in surprise, and finally had a look in his eyes. Careful. Xiao Sun landed a black stone, and after his difficult situation was relieved, but with Xia Jiwei followed by a white stone, Xiao Sun lost half of his country again. At this time, the emperor finally couldn't bear it anymore. He poured a cup of tea on Xiao Changshuan's head, without saying a word, pinched his nose and rushed out of the south study room, standing under the eaves, breathing continuously. Framed, this rebellious son, do you think he is blind? Who will frame him in front of the imperial court? He clearly wanted to frame up his fellow brothers, so young, such intentions. Xia Jiwei sat by the window. All the partitions to the north were opened by the eunuchs, and the northwest wind blew in, slightly blowing away the smell in the room. No one expected that the plot would take such a sudden turn. The princes and Gao Shaotian hurriedly followed out and knelt under the eaves again. Only Xiao Changxian knelt on the spot and remained motionless. His hands were clenched into fists, and his whole body was tense and trembling, which showed that he was very angry. He couldn't help being angry, not to mention the embarrassment. Today was so stinky, he almost fainted from the smoke. With such a deep impression, whenever my father sees him in the future, he will think of today's scene. Under conditioned reflex, even if his body is fragrant, his father will feel very smelly. A prince who is not liked by the emperor, what chance will he have in the future? Hu Di is so vicious, if he finds out, he will definitely not let him go lightly. Xiao Changxian suspected that it was the eldest prince, but he had no evidence, so he acted rashly and let the real murderer escape, which was not what Xiao Changxian wanted to see. Go out, there is no way to play. Xiao Sun dropped the last piece, looked at Xia Jiwei looked up at him, and mercilessly dropped the white piece in the position of East 3, South 5, and a black dragon was beheaded. Xiao Sun looked at the chessboard for a while, then gave Xia Jiwei a hard look, snorted coldly, and walked out. Xia Jiwei followed behind him cautiously, regretting his impulsiveness just now. She rubbed her nose. She has lived 2 lifetimes, but she still can't hold her breath. Why should she be as knowledgeable as him? She should be flattered when King Chen asked her to play chess with her. How can she use her emotions to win or lose for a while? The emperor saw Xiao Sun's stinky face, and he felt a little better, and asked, "What, you lost? When you play chess, you should be in a good mood and in a good environment. Uncle Huang has always known that today is really not a good day to play chess. What does this mean? He lost the chess game today, and it was all Xiao Changshuan's fault." Second update. End of this chapter. Chapter 23. Deliberately you are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 23. Intentional. Is there such a thing? Xia Jiwei was surprised. In this way, did she think too much? In fact, Xiao Sun didn't know what he did to Xiao Changxian. He simply thought that he should be as good at chess as his grandfather. Seeing that the weather is good today, let him accompany him. If this is the case, wouldn't he have offended Xiao Sun for no reason? I heard that he is a man who will take revenge for every wrongdoing, and he will keep his grudges in mind for many years, and he will never let go of the opportunity. If there is no opportunity, he will create an opportunity to reciprocate. The emperor glanced at Xiao Changxian, who was kneeling in the room with distaste, and said angrily, "Show me the game between King Chen and Miss Xia in Linda Hall." After the emperor finished speaking, he strode away. Xiao Changxian heard the movement, turned his head and glanced outside the door, feeling ashamed. If his father scolded him severely, he would feel better. The royal father left just like that, which proved that the royal father hated himself to the extreme at this time. Who the hell? Xiao Changxian looked fiercely at the eldest prince, and Xiao Changyuan was pretending to bow his hands to Gao Xiaotian. "Teacher, the student has disgraced the teacher today. The student should go back and study hard, and then go to apologize to the emperor. His Royal Highness, it is time to study hard. Riding and archery is of course important. If His Highness wants to become a qualified commander, he must not be ignorant of others, nor self-aware." Xiao Changxian endured and endured, until the people at the door were almost gone, then he slowly got up. Just as he went out, the little beside him hurriedly greeted him, "Your Highness. Get out." Xiao Changxian was furious, but he didn't dare to lose his temper in the south study room. If he dared, his father would know it within a cup of tea. Today, he has already annoyed his father, and he can't add fuel to the fire. Xia Jiwei glanced back. If Xiao Changxian dared to take revenge on others at this time, she might look at him again, but Xiao Changxian endured it. It's no wonder that in his previous life, he had the last laugh. Looking at what? Xiao Sun turned around suddenly. Xia Jiwei slammed into him, her nose hit his shoulder, just like hitting an iron plate. The pain made her burst into tears. Xia Jiwei covered his nose, and looked at Xiao Sun with tearful eyes. Xiao Sun is very innocent, can he say that he didn't do it on purpose? Well, I can't rub it for you, right? Besides, I didn't mean it, I was just curious. What are you looking at? What's so good about Xiao Changxian? Your Majesty, if you can't afford to lose at chess, then you should stop playing chess with others. Xia Jiwei held his nose aggrievedly, as if he didn't want to see Xiao Sun for a moment, turned around and walked quickly along a path leave. She walked fast, it seemed that someone was chasing her behind her, and it fell into Xiao Sun's eyes. Was she afraid that she would catch up? Yunhu, is this king the kind of person who can't afford to lose? Yunhu didn't know how to answer, so he simply bowed his head and remained silent. Tell me, what is it that makes a person who is originally delicious suddenly smell worse than shit? Yunhu didn't know even more. He secretly glanced at his prince, such a glorious person, like a green bamboo under the moon. Is it really okay to say such a thing? However, the prince is a person who has no taboos, and it seems that nothing should surprise people. Xia Jiwei ran for a while, held on to a pine tree, looked back, and was relieved when she saw no one was following. Xiao Changxian suffered a bad loss today and received a small interest. It was supposed to be a day to celebrate, but getting involved with Xiao Sun is not worth the loss. Although Xiao Sun was her partner in the previous life, because of this, the more she knew about him, the less she wanted to have too much to do with him. He is too dangerous. If you walk with him, if you are not careful, you will be squeezed into the abyss by him. He is scheming against people's hearts, he is omnipotent, he is ruthless, and he has no taboos. He is simply a Shura walking in the world. The real Xiao Sun is far from the beautiful image he gave to the world of spring tour, apricot blossoms blowing all over his head. Someone in Mozhang is young and full of flair. It can only be said that the noble ladies in the capital are crazy and blind terribly. Xia Jiwei walked forward slowly. Mu Xiang was also lost by her, but it didn't matter, she was very familiar with the palace, so she decided to go to Qingrui Pavilion first. If she couldn't find anyone, then she had to go to Fengji Palace. Fortunately, as soon as I approached Qingrui Pavilion, I heard the voices of the eldest princess and the second younger sister. Xie Jiwei hurriedly called out, and the two stood up to greet them together. Sister Wei, we are going to the south study room to find you. There, I am afraid of delaying my father's exams and my brother's, so I plan to go there later. Xie Jiwei said. Fortunately, she didn't go there, but she also considered that the eldest princess should not be in a hurry to go at this time, and she was also afraid that the emperor would test her. Sister Yuanjia, it's getting late. My second sister and I should leave the palace. Wait a few days before I come to play with you again. It is indeed getting late, and the eldest princess also wants to go back to see the queen earlier, but she is reluctant to bear Xie Jiwei. Next time you enter the palace, let's have a good time. This time I didn't let you play well. The eldest princess refers to the fact that the queen had something to do with Xie Jiwei, which delayed her play. And Xie Jiwei saw that Xie Jiwei had changed her clothes, so she guessed that the eldest sister might have encountered something unhappy, and if that was the case, she also wanted to leave the palace early. Okay, next time I enter the palace, I will bring you my scented tea for Sister Yuanjia to try. Xie Jiwei entered the palace in such a hurry that he came in empty-handed. Okay, I will wait for you. Nanny she rushed over and personally sent the two sisters Xie Jiwei out of the palace, as well as a pot of orchids that the empress gave. The empress said, the eldest princess is accompanied by Miss Xie, and her temper is much more relaxed. Go into the palace for a walk and accompany Her Highness the Princess. Thank you, Empress, for your kindness. The courtiers must go to the palace more often to accompany the princess. Nurse she handed the flowers to Zmo, then turned and left very satisfied. The two sisters got into the carriage, and the carriage rumbled forward. After leaving the palace, Xie Jiwei looked at the dress on Xie Jiwei's body, and asked worriedly, Big sister, did the second princess bully you? Xie Jiwei was surprised and asked, why do you say that? Xie Jiwei pursed her lips. For her, it was a very embarrassing thing for her to know who the Taoist was behind her, but the other party was her eldest sister, so she still said, when I played with the eldest princess and the third princess, the second princess here she is, taking advantage of the third princess not paying attention, she pushed the third princess into the lake. Is the third princess all right? The third princess can swim, she didn't suffer any crimes, the imperial doctor has seen it, she drank a bowl of tea, she should be fine. Xie Jiwei still looked at Xie Jiwei worriedly. Xie Jiwei understood that she thought she was also framed by the second princess. She couldn't help laughing. I'm fine, I was stained with soup by a court lady. The palace is really complicated. Xie Jiwei muttered. Xiao Sun. Mei, tell me, am I the hero? Xie Jiwei. Whether it's the male lead or not, I don't care. If you can get a vote, it's the male lead. End of this chapter. Chapter 24. God's Fortune. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 24. Xie Jiwei found it funny when she heard it. She stroked Xie Jiwei's hair. She, the second younger sister, has a pure heart. Xie Jiwei entered the palace purely because she had never been in the palace before, and thought it was fun, so she wanted to go in and see it. Now that I have seen the complexity of the palace, I am afraid that I will never want to enter the palace again. Could it be that you won't accompany me in when I enter the palace again? Xie Jiwei teased her. Xie Jiwei frowned and thought for a while, if eldest sister is afraid of entering the palace alone, I still have to accompany eldest sister to enter the palace together. Well, next time, if I enter the palace, I will ask you to accompany me. I will be very scared if I enter the palace alone. Xie Jiwei is not afraid, but she just thinks that with the temper of the second younger sister, she is afraid that she will get along with her. He suffered the same as in his previous life. Second sister is not defensive, but it doesn't mean that others have no intention of harming her. If you know more, you won't let others easily harm her, and you can get rid of the fate of the previous life. Back at Xie's house, Yuan Shi and Xiao Shi had already led the people to look forward to it in front of the Chuehua gate. When they saw Xie Jiwei get off the car, their eyes lit up. Xie Jiwei's body was clearly not the one he wore when he entered the palace. Shi asked, "Miss Wei, is this body of yours rewarded by the Empress?" The dress on Xie Jiwei's body should be Yuehua brocade brought up from Sichuan. I heard that there are only 100 pieces of brocade every year, and all of them enter the palace, not even enough for the royal family. There are also pink pearls on her head, which are also newly added. In order to match her clothes, each bead is about the size of a little finger. There are more than 20 beads in total, which are of average size. Light, extremely rare. My daughter entered the palace with Sister Wei, and Sister Wei got the benefits, but Sister Hui got nothing. Zhao's smile was a little stiff, and his tone was not good enough. The Empress likes the eldest sister very much, and asks the eldest sister to go to the palace to play when she is free. Xie Jiwei is purely happy for Xie Jiwei, and has no intention of jealousy. Ms. Xiao was very surprised that the queen valued Xie Jiwei so much. Her own daughter was like a stick. Entering the palace together, Xie Jiwei got benefits, but she got nothing, so she didn't feel any emotion at all. It's really disappointing and disturbing. Mr. Xiao said angrily, "You accompanied your elder sister to the palace, and you didn't say you wanted to please the Empress." Xie Jiwei was extremely shocked. Looking at Xiao Shi, she didn't understand why her mother thought so. What is the mother saying? What's so good about the daughter, making the mother think that the daughter can be compared with the big sister? Ms. Xiao was so choked that she couldn't speak. She had taught her daughter so much, but she had never taught her daughter to belittle herself. The daughter's self-taught knowledge was so proficient. It's really not as good as God. Yuan's heart was on Xie Jiwei, and she took her hand. "Mei Mei, are you tired? Go say hello to the old lady, and go back to rest early." In the old lady's room, Xie Jiying, the concubine daughter of the second room, and Qian, mother and daughter of the third room, were waiting together. He watched helplessly as the two sisters Xie Jiwei came in, and the maids behind them were holding the rewards they got, seeing their eyes full of envy and jealousy. "Miss Wei, you brought your second sister into the palace this time, and next time you enter the palace, should you bring your third sister across the mountain?" Mr. Feng has always disliked Sanfeng, but sometimes, in order to suppress the elder family, she is willing to give Sanfeng face, which makes Qian's heart grow bigger. Xie Jiqian's eyes lit up when she heard what her mother said, staring at Xie Jiwei, just waiting for her to say hello. Xie Jiwei glanced lightly at Mrs. Qian, neither saying yes nor no. She saluted Feng's courteously, and asked people to bring up the rewards from the palace. The queen's gift, she has already worn it on her body. What is left is the pot of orchids, and the other lady's gifts. Jewelry is nothing more than jewelry. Seeing the pot of orchids that were carefully grown, Feng's cloudy eyes lit up immediately, and the shock on his face couldn't be concealed. Empress even gave you the orchids she raised. Who doesn't know that the Empress is addicted to orchids like her life? In these years, she has never rewarded anyone except the wife of the Marquis of Wuhan. Xie Jiwei, how can he dare get so much love from the queen? This is more honorable than rewarding gold, jade and jewelry. Zhao's attention was all on Xie Jiwei's clothes just now, but at this moment, seeing the orchid, he was also shocked. Ms. Qian was upset at first, but Xie Jiwei ignored her, but in front of this pot of orchids, she didn't know what else to do besides flattering Xie Jiwei. If Xie Jiwei can occasionally bring Sister Qian into the palace, are you afraid that Sister Qian's reputation will not be raised? If you can get 1 or 2 rewards from the palace like Sister Hui, are you afraid that you won't be able to discuss a good marriage in the future? Feng couldn't restrain his heart beating wildly, and became more and more displeased with Xie Jiwei. He insisted on having conflicts with her sister Qing. They were aunts and cousins, wouldn't it be nice to be intimate? If it weren't for this, the three cousins went in together when they entered the palace this time. With her sister Qing's cleverness, this pot of orchids might belong to Sister Qing. Really cheap Xie Jiwei. You and Sister Hui will put these rewards in your own private treasury. Mrs. Feng saw the greed in Mrs. Qian's eyes. If only Xie Jiwei received the rewards and let Xie Ji differentiate them, that would be fine, but if Xie Jiwei it's different, it would be wrong for Sister Hui not to share her reward with her sisters. Of course, the Feng family didn't want to harm the interests of their direct relatives and granddaughters, so they simply didn't divide it up. It's a reward from the palace anyway, so it's understandable not to share it. Qian's hands tightly twisted the handkerchief. She was very angry, but she also knew that it was related to Sister Hui. If she said something, her mother-in-law would not like it, so she had to take Xie Jiwei into a fit. Sister Wei, the Queen's Empress, is even the favorite. I gave you all the orchids, which are more precious than anything else. It means that those bracelets you got should be taken out and distributed to the sisters. Third aunt, you are right. It is the honor of the Xie family for the eldest sister to be rewarded by the Empress. I, the third younger sister, the fourth younger sister, and the fifth younger sister should all learn from the eldest sister. As long as we can be like the elder sister, so dignified and respectful, the Empress will definitely like it. Xie Zhihui said sincerely, the Empress likes Big Sister, and Her Royal Highness also likes Big Sister very much. She is commensurate with Big Sister and Sister. I don't think I can be so flattering or humiliating as Big Sister. After finishing speaking, Xie Zhihui looked at Xie Jiwei adoringly, staring at her eyes. Xie Jiwei was amused by her. Feng Shi and Xiao Shi looked at each other, very suspicious. Whether this child is stupid, pardon their stupid eyes, they really didn't see it. What's so good about Xie Jiwei? Feng Shi was so angry that she waved her hand. You two are tired too, go back and rest first, you don't need to come here again today. Xie Jiwei couldn't ask for more, bent his knees, turned and left. Zmo held the pot of orchids and followed behind her. Ms. Yuan also knew that she was not welcomed by Mrs. Feng, so she followed without saying a word, and the mother and daughter went to Funyuan together. She went to the palace and was very worried about her brother. Yuan Shi was worried about her. Feng Shi and others felt that it was an honor to enter the palace, but Yuan Shi knew that the palace was like a dragon's pond and a tiger's den, and if one was not careful, one might fall into it, which could be described as full of dangers. Sister, you are finally back. Xie Mingxi was detained on the bed. Seeing Xie Jiwei, he was very happy, and rushed toward Xie Jiwei. Xie Jiwei took a step forward and caught him. As for tickets, during the new book period, the data is really important, please take care of it. End of this chapter. Chapter 25. Reputation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 25. Fame. Xie Jiwei took Xie Mingxi's hand, and felt his pulse with his fingers. He couldn't help but sigh. The little guy recovered really fast. After the fever subsided, within a night and a day, he recovered a lot. Sister, my mother said that I can only go out to play if my sister agrees. Sister, I'm so good today, I've been waiting on the bed for you to come back. Promise me to go out to play, and I will go out to play. Looking at his younger brother who was alive and kicking around with a normal look, Xie Jiwei was full of gratitude to God. She held him in her arms and stroked his soft body. Then tell my sister, what do you want to go out to play? Xie Mingxi couldn't think of what to play at the moment, so many fun games, swinging, catching ants, fighting crickets. These sisters don't play, right? But he wants to play with his sister, what should he do? Xie Jiwei knew what the little guy was thinking when she saw it. She let go of her younger brother, and tapped the tip of his upturned nose. You are sick, you have to stay in bed and rest, and you can't go outside to blow the air. My sister will play with you in the house. Okay. Although he couldn't go out, Xie Mingxi glanced out the window at the dark sky. His little face was not disappointed, but very happy. Sister, it's not fun outside, if my sister plays with me, I'll just stay on the bed. Xie Jiwei ordered ZMO, go and bring me the third, 3-character classic, from the cabinet in my small study, on the first grid on the 3rd floor. Sister, is she going to teach me how to read? Xie Mingxi was not stupid, his face collapsed when he heard San Zi Jing, he didn't want to read. Playing, isn't it delicious? Yuan was so angry that she wanted to go up and twist Xie Mingxi's ears. Children are debts. If she was still gloating over Zhao's misfortune just now, the retribution will be on her head now. Xie Mingxi is the eldest grandson of the Xie family. If she doesn't study well and doesn't know how to read, will her father.in.law and husband.in.law blame her for her poor blood in the Yuan family? Will you regret marrying the Yuan family? Yuan was furious, your elder sister is so busy, she is willing to enlighten you, but you are not willing, you child, what can mother say about you? Xie Ji smiled and glanced at Yuan Shi, she didn't say anything, Yuan Shi felt ashamed of herself, so she quickly shut up and didn't speak. That's all, the son will leave the headache to the daughter, and she doesn't bother to take care of it anyway. Brother, she doesn't want to study with my sister. Xie Jiwei looked very hurt, she pursed her lips, my sister thought that brother she really wanted to study with her sister, and my sister wanted to teach brother she to read. She is smarter than other people's younger brothers, making others envy her sister. Can you still do this? Xie Mingxi was a little depressed at first, but now he was like a fighting cock, high-spirited, sister, I want to read and read, sister, teach me. He really wants everyone in the capital to envy his sister for having a very powerful brother. Xie Jiwei felt warm in her heart. She rubbed her younger brother's head lovingly, when brother Shi recovers from his illness, my sister will give you a small bow, and then my sister will teach you how to ride and shoot. Really? Xie Mingxi's eyes lit up, and he couldn't wait to get out of bed. If he jumped a few times, would my sister think that his illness was cured? Seeing the affectionate appearance of the two siblings, Yuan Shi couldn't help feeling emotional. She never dreamed that this day would come, so she couldn't help but wipe the corners of her eyes with a handkerchief, and carefully exited the room, not wanting to disturb the two of them. Ma'am, it's 3 o'clock in the United States, time to set the meal. Is the eldest girl's meal served at the wife's side? Tian Nanny asked. This question, if it was before, Mother Tian would not even ask, but she would only ask this when she sees that the eldest girl is getting close to this place recently. Yuan Shi was very hesitant. She always felt that she should be nice to the eldest girl. After all, when the Chui family made this kind of marriage before, the condition was that she would marry and treat the eldest girl as if she was her own, no kiss, that's the right thing to do, after all, she's just the eldest girl's stepmother. Now she doesn't know how the big girl is doing it. Xie Jiwei came out after a cup of tea, it was getting late, and ZMO also came to ask about the arrangement of the meal, she simply said, put the meal here with the wife, mother, I'm hungry, I'm waiting for my mother eat here before going back. Naturally, Mrs. Yuan couldn't wait to ask for it, so she hurriedly said, what dishes are prepared in the kitchen today? Is there anything the big girl likes to eat? If not, let the small kitchen make it. Yuan's small kitchen was left by Chui back then, and it has been useless all these years. If the eldest girl is willing to eat at her side, she can use it in the future. Fuyan Courtyard is full of joy and harmony, but Chunhui Hall is full of gloomy clouds and mist. After the mother.in.law who went to Shui's family came back, she was telling Feng about Shui Wanqing's situation. The second wife sent the girl back last night and Mrs. Shui told the premise that the girl should be restrained. The girl will kneel in the ancestral hall for 3 days and copy the Analects of Women 100 times. She said that the old lady is for the girl's good. Mrs. Shui didn't take it too seriously, she just sent the girl to the ancestral hall. The mother in law who sent Shui Wanqing back was originally Feng's dowry to her daughter, surnamed Meng, and now served Shui Wanqing, wiping away tears, who would have thought that after noon today, the palace would suddenly send someone to inquire about this matter. I also went to the Xue family ancestral hall and said that the Xue family was too tolerant of the girl, so it's no wonder the girl did such things. Seeing that Feng was so angry that she almost fainted, Mother Meng didn't dare to say what the mother in the palace said, but the mother actually said that the girl did such vicious things as framing her sisters and repaying her kindness with revenge. A girl's family is crowned with the word vicious, what good reputation can it have? Seeing that Feng Shi was very angry, Mammy Yu was afraid that she would do something wrong, so she winked at Nanny Meng, told her to stop talking, and persuaded Feng Shi, young lady has also been in the palace, for a while. I won't be summoned again for a moment, and as time goes by, the palace won't remember the eldest girl. In the future, the eldest girl will not be in the hands of the old lady, and we are not in a hurry for this moment. So what if the big girl gets a pot of orchids? It can only mean that the queen was quite satisfied with the eldest girl before, but who can say clearly what will happen in the future? It's lucky that Mrs. Chui raised them, that's all. The old lady was furious, and she put on her 18 clothes again, and Mrs. Feng twisted them one by one. Water comes. Her sister Qing had a hard life, and she lost her mother when she was 6 years old. She grew up holding it in her hands, and Feng's heart would bleed just thinking of Sister Qing being tortured in the Xue family. When you came over, Sister Qing was ready for dinner. What did you eat? Did you use much? Xue Wanqing is gone, and Feng's energy has been drained. Nanny Meng didn't dare to say anything, she knelt on the ground, lowered her head, trembling all over. Nav OM the first update. End of this chapter. Chapter 26. Chess Record. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 26. Chess Records. Is there anything I can't say? Tell me, what did they do to my sister Qing? They wouldn't even refuse to eat for Qing's sister, would they? How dare they? Mother Meng kowtowed desperately, old lady, please save the girl. The Xue family treated the girl harshly, making the girl kneel in the ancestral hall, even refusing to use the mat. Before the slaves came back, Mrs. Xue sent a message that she was not allowed to bring food to the girl, poor motherless child. Feng burst into tears, she didn't dare to think about it, she just said angrily, I'm not dead yet, they treat my sister Qing like this. She got up from Luohan's bed in a panic, get ready for the car, I'm going to Xue's house. Nurse, you didn't expect that things would be like this. In this way, the empress in the palace is clearly supporting the eldest girl. But she didn't dare to persuade her, so she could only tell her, hurry up and prepare the car. Feng didn't let anyone help her, she walked towards the door without moving her feet, the curtain cage was beaten up by the servant girl, and a figure in a stone blue long satin gown with 5 blessings holding birthdays and carved patterns came into view. Seeing the old man, the old lady startled, he leaned back, Master. She really didn't expect the old man to come over at this time, but she is in a hurry to go out now. Xie Tiao didn't seem to notice her disbelief, so he walked straight into the house and sat down on the arhat bed by himself. The maids are busy serving tea. The old lady stood still, and the old man seemed to have noticed it, and frowned and looked outside. It's getting so late, are you going out? Mrs. Feng had no choice but to turn around and come back, crying as she walked, Old master, I just heard that after Sister Qing was sent back to Xue's house, she was tortured by her stepmother, and she was not even allowed to eat. Listen, I'm really sad. Xie Tiao raised the end of his eyes and glanced at Feng Shi. I heard that the empress sent someone to Uncle Ningyuan's mansion today to inquire about Sister Qing. What's going on with Sister Qing? Feng doesn't think that Xie Tiao doesn't know about the grievance between Xue Wanqing and Xie Jiwei. Xie Tiao doesn't seem to care about the inner courtyard, but there is nothing in this whole house that can be hidden from Xie Tiao's eyes and ears. Back then, when Xie Yuanbai was only 12 years old, she once came to the backyard. She arranged for a sensible and beautiful servant girl to meet Xie Tiao in the garden, but that servant girl was dismissed by Xie Tiao. I didn't talk to her for a whole year. Amon, it was you who sent the words for Sister Qing to kneel in the ancestral hall. Secondly, Sister Qing pushed Sister Wei into the pond. Well done. If she can reflect on this, the world will only say that she knows her mistakes and can improve greatly. Since the Empress is involved in this matter today, if the Shui family does not follow the order, it will be treasonous. Are you trying to detain Sister Qing? Sun fell into a place of disloyalty and filial piety. Feng looked at Xie Tiao in horror. She had been sleeping with Xie Tiao for more than 20 years, and she hadn't seen through Xie Tiao. At this time, Xie Tiao was willing to tell her these things in detail. Does it mean that Xie Tiao is still willing to listen to her? 2 sentences. Sister Qing is a granddaughter, and Sister Wei is a granddaughter. For the old man, the palms and backs of his hands are full of flesh. Old master, Sister Qing has grown up so much, why has she ever suffered like this? Since she came to the house, I held her in my hand and grew up. I have never been wronged in the slightest. I am afraid that she will be overwhelmed and do something stupid. After Xie Tiao heard about it, he picked up the teacup and took a sip in silence. Amon, back then, I did not agree with you to arrange a marriage for our daughter in Uncle Ningyuan's mansion. As I said, Xie's daughter is not Mary Xuangue, you don't listen. Since your daughter married Ninjuanbo's mansion, you should think about it a little bit. There is no Xuangue's children who are not 3 wives and 4 concubines. The backyard is full. When your daughter can't think about it, you never persuade her. On the contrary, they made waves and tried every means to push her to have a rift between husband and wife. Xie Tiao raised her eyelids and looked at Feng Shi coolly. Feng Shi only felt that a sharp arrow had been shot at her heart, and for a moment, she felt that the blood in her whole body was cold. Later, I have no objection to you bringing Sister Qing to your home. If you don't want to be the eldest daughter of Uncle Ningyuan's mansion, you still don't listen to Xie's cousin. Why, you are still planning to extend your hand to manage Uncle Ningyuan's mansion about the goddaughter. Mr. Feng shivered for a moment. Sure enough, she guessed correctly. The old man knew every move in the back house. He just didn't ask about many things, but it didn't mean he didn't know. Feng couldn't help but shed old tears. Grandfather, I only have Tao Nyang as a daughter, and she passed away at a young age. Could it be that I can't even protect the little blood she left behind? Xie Tiao slammed the teacup on the table, and with a bang, Feng didn't dare to cry anymore, and looked at Xie Tiao in surprise. Amon, how have you treated Miss Wei all these years? Have I ever said anything? What has the Chui family done? Xie Tiao looked deeply at Feng, his eyes were dark, as if a beast was peeping she. Feng grasped the bracelet tightly, looked at Xie Tiao in disbelief, and felt a chill in her heart. Old man, why did I treat Miss Wei? Did I not give her food, or let her set the rules? What's worse about her food and clothing than the prostitutes of the Xuangue family? The old man said this about the concubine status, and the concubine status is really indisputable. Xie Tiao also felt chilling. How did the Yuan family get in? Back then, the old lady of the Chui family came to visit her granddaughter, and all the servants serving her granddaughter were all unfamiliar faces. Sister Wei had a low fever, and none of the nurses and maids around her noticed. The old lady of the Chui family left her nanny to take care of her, and invited him to go the next day, saying that she had a crush on a girl and wanted to make Yuan by his successor. If it wasn't for the fact that the Chui family didn't have any girls of the right age, Yuan Bai might have to marry his sister. In law as his successor, but he couldn't refute a word of the reasons given by the Chui family. He could only watch the general's daughter enter the house and become the Xie family's Zongfu. Marrying a wife is not a good thing and will bring disaster to 3 generations. This is really true. Fortunately, in this marriage of the Chui family, Yuan's is more than a little bit worse than Chui's, but Yuan's character is good, which is also worth her other disadvantages. And his old wife, the marriage made by the first emperor, taught Xie Tiao that he would never be able to guard against it for the rest of his life. Xietiao had nothing to say. He got up, put his hands behind his back, and walked out unhurriedly. The whole room was silent. Xietiao came to the outer study, and saw the chessboard under the south window, and there was an endgame on it. Today he went to Linda Palace to report on official business. The emperor is messing around. After he finished speaking, the emperor waved to him and asked him to accompany the emperor to the next game. There was such a thing in the past. Xietiao didn't care about it. The emperor let him hold the white pieces. He looked at the chess game, thought for a while, and suddenly felt that the game set by the white pieces is wonderful. Every move is endless, and there is no end to the force. Non-national players can't do it. At that time, the emperor saw his shocked look and gave him a meaningful look, but he didn't think much about it, until the white piece won. The emperor asked, "Look, who is holding the white piece?" Xietiao never imagined in his dreams that this game of chess was actually a remnant game played by his eldest granddaughter and King Qinjun. A case in his hand is at a critical moment. He originally planned to rest in the yamen today, but the eldest granddaughter sent someone to the yamen to inform him that Mrs. Feng was going to the Ningyuan uncle's mansion, and he had to go home as a last resort. Xietiao took out a book from his bookcase, flipped through it, and handed it to Shuang reluctantly. "Give it to the eldest girl." Shuang is the maid serving in Xietiao's study room. She was taken aback and looked at the book in her hand in disbelief. When Shuang came, Xia Jiwei hadn't rested yet. She carefully presented the book to Xia Jiwei. Xia Jiwei took it over and looked at it. His eyes widened immediately, and he asked in disbelief, "Grandfather asked you to bring this?" Shuang couldn't have stolen it for her, right? But she has no friendship with Shuang. The old man asked his servants to bring it to the eldest girl. Shuang also felt that she was dreaming. This is a chess record. The old man would take it out and look it up when he was tired and upset. Others use wine to relieve their worries, and the old man relies on this chess record to relieve their worries. Today's update. Still ask for votes and comments. Can you give a rating? End of this chapter. Chapter 27. Give money. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 27. Sending money. Xia Jiwei's sleepiness was swept away. Wang Yu Qingping Ji was written by Li Yimin, a great master of chess in the former dynasty. The book not only records the grand occasion of Go activities in the previous dynasty, from the royal family to the pawns and peddlers, but also selects more than 50 chess games from the previous generation and the famous players of this dynasty, including Sun Sijao Lu Fan's chess game. Emperor Wu of the Jin dynasty ordered Wang Wuzi to play chess game, and other games whose names are only heard but whose pictures are not seen are very precious. The most rare thing is that the book in Xia Jiwei's hands is actually the only copy written by Li Yimin himself, which is invaluable. My grandfather actually gave it to her. Under the soft light, the girl was wearing a jacket, holding the book in both hands, and couldn't let go of the scroll. On her incomparably beautiful side face, she had a peaceful expression, and the corners of her lips were slightly raised, like a beautiful picture scroll, so beautiful that people couldn't bear to move it. Open eyes. The current emperor is good at chess. Xiao Sun is young and has extraordinary chess skills. If she can beat Xiao Sun, she will definitely attract the attention of the emperor. Sure enough, the grandfather also knew about this, so he rewarded her with such a precious copy. Thinking about it, the momentary self-willedness at that time was not all wrong. Although he offended the noble county prince, Xia Jiwei felt it was worth it with this lonely book. The old man likes this book on weekdays, and he reads it every day. Shuang said with a smile. Xia Jiwei raised his head from the book, and smiled sweetly. Sister Shuang, did grandfather go home just now? The old man is back and went to the yamen again. It's even more troublesome for Shen Luzhong to make this trip. Zmo, send Sister Shuang to me. Zmo sent Shuang out, and at the gate of the courtyard, she asked a daughter-in-law to light a lantern for Shuang, and stuffed Shuang with a heavy purse. Please trouble sister, it's dark, be careful on the road. Shuang is from the old man's study. Even the cats and dogs raised in the old man's house, Xie Jiwei has to call her sister. This is the rule. Under the lamp, Xie Jiwei looked at the book, unable to calm down for a long time. Grandfather served as minister of Dali Temple, and he was already busy with official duties. Not only did he have to teach his fourth uncle to study, but in the previous life, the brothers in the family were almost all enlightened by the grandfather. But even so, in her previous life, her marriage was not in the hands of her grandmother. If the emperor hadn't indicated the marriage, her grandfather had originally found a marriage for her with a cousin of the Liu family. Zmo came over and turned on the lamp, and helped her gather up her clothes. Girl, it's late at night, let's rest first, tomorrow you will go shopping with the second girl. Let me take a look again. You guys go to sleep first. Xie Jiwei read Wang Yu Qingping Ji from beginning to end, and when he put it down reluctantly, it was already the second watch. Early the next morning, someone from Chunhui Hall sent a message that the old lady was not feeling well, so there was no need to go to pay her respects today. Xie Jiwei didn't dare to stay in bed, and woke up when she fell asleep. At Fuyan Courtyard, Yuan Shi had just returned from the auditorium. Hearing that Xie Jiwei was coming, he hurriedly walked in, and heard Xie Mingxi and Xie Jiwei talking inside. Sister, I also want to go to the street to play. I'll take you there when you're well. My sister is going to the street today to buy you some snacks and some medicinal materials by the way. It turned out that my sister was buying snacks for herself. Xie Mingxi was healed instantly. He pointed at his opponent, then can I eat sweet? Scented asmanthus cake, bean paste roll, crystal cold cake. Xie Mingxi raised his watery eyes and glanced at Xie Jiwei. Seeing his sister squinting and looking at her with joy, he became bolder and continued, I also want to eat peach cakes, kidney bean rolls, chestnut cakes, rose cake. Mrs. Yuan couldn't stand listening anymore, opened the scarlet felt curtain, and came in. How much can you eat, little kid? Why don't you ask your big sister to help you by Zhouqiao Street? Xie Mingxi asked in surprise, Mother, can Zhouqiao Street still buy it? Xie Jiwei chuckled, got up, and rubbed the top of his brother's soft hair habitually. Brother Shi, I promise to buy you a lot of delicious food when you come back. When you recover from illness, my sister will take you to the street to eat enough. Zmo said in her heart that her daughter never made a wish, but when she met the fifth young master, she broke her merits. In just 2 days, she made several wishes. Yuan accompanied Xie Jiwei out of the wing room, and asked, Did Miss have breakfast? My mother was going to the hearing hall early in the morning to dispose of Zhongfu, so I didn't come to bother my mother. I have already used it in Kazewan. Xie Jiwei came over, first to see his younger brother, and second, to tell Yuan Shi to go out. Since my younger brother wants to be enlightened, I will prepare a pen, ink, paper and inkstone for my younger brother. I heard the day before yesterday that a new shop from the south opened on Zhouqiao Street. The jewelry they sell is beautiful and novel. It's rare for you to go to the street. Don't just think about your brother. You should also add some new clothes and jewelry. Yuan looked Xie Jiwei up and down. Now that it's done, she will have an excuse to buy new clothes and jewelry for her daughter in the future. Yuan Shi gave Tian Nanny a wink. Tian Nanny hurriedly went to the inner room, and soon came out, holding an ebony wood carving box in her hand. Yuan took the box and handed it to Xie Jiwei. This morning, I went to the shop. Send it over, the daughter's family must have money in hand, you can use it, don't waste it. Xie Jiwei opened the box and took a look. There was a thick stack of banknotes, at least 3,000 or 4,000 taels. She is a stepmother, with a generous dowry and a good way of making money. She has always been generous to her. Thank you, mother. Xie Jiwei knew that if she refused, her mother would definitely be sad, so it's better to continue generously. Yuan immediately regretted it. If she knew it earlier, she should have given more. The income from the shop last month was unknown. She was worried that her daughter would refuse, so she only wanted to test it out. Since my daughter wants it, what can I do with this little money? After Xie Zhiwei left, Yuan went in to see his son, only to realize that today, Xie Zhiwei had taught him 2 sentences, at the beginning of human beings, nature is good. Similar in nature, but far apart in habits. The little guy flipped the book over and over, proud of himself, and showed off, "Mother, my sister said that this book was written by my father for my sister to enlighten me, and my sister actually gave it to me. It was written by Dad himself. He has never seen Dad since he grew up." Yuan Shi was also taken aback. She hurriedly picked up the book and took a look, although she didn't read much, but back then, in order to marry into Xie's family, she worked hard for a year to read a few books, and also passed a few in this copybook. "I still have some sharp eyesight, and I can see that the characters are indeed the same as the characters on the family letter written by my husband." Sister Wei actually took the enlightenment book written by her husband to enlighten her son. She treats her son as well as a fellow mother. Yuan's eyes were hot, and she felt more and more that it was really wrong to give her daughter such a small amount of money just now. "Mother Tian, tell me, if I give the shop on Zhouqiao Street to Mei Mei, will she think that I look down on her?" Nurse Tian pondered for a moment. "In the past, I was afraid that the eldest girl would think like this, but now, the slaves don't know about it, but the shop has benefited a lot. Wouldn't it be a pity if the wife gave it to the eldest girl to practice?" "It's not a pity. First, I will watch from the side. Second, Mei Mei is so smart, how can she lose money?" End of this chapter. Chapter 28. Calculate. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 28. Calculations. Xie Zhiwei went shopping with more than 4,300 taels of silver bills in her arms. She never felt that she was such a rich person. After getting into the carriage, Xie Zhiwei said to her happily, "Eldest sister, I asked my mother for 100 taels of silver bills last night. After a while, whatever elder sister wants will be counted on my head." Zmo huddled in a corner of the carriage, and took a deep look at Xie Zhiwei. She clutched the money bag in her arms more and more tightly. Just now, she said that she would send the banknotes back to Yizhaiyuan for collection, but the eldest girl said no. She was afraid that there would be too little time, and if the second girl had to wait again, would it be okay? "Okay, it's all right now, more than 4,000 taels of silver. If someone robs her, it's too late for her to cry." The carriage left from the east corner gate and walked away slowly. A figure turned from behind the screen wall. She was petite and had an angry face. She looked fiercely at the empty door of Yimen. Her lips were bleeding from her teeth. "Humph, Big Sister is too biased. Ping Ping is a sister. Since when did Big Sister take me, the third younger sister, to heart?" The maidservant in Xingyi whispered, "Third Miss, I can't blame eldest Miss for this, and second Miss is too good at flattering people. In front of the old lady yesterday, second Miss almost made eldest Miss a god. Don't look at her usual high-spirited and self-respecting appearance. She is not a bitch. If she is so tight to the eldest sister, it means that the palace likes the eldest sister." "Nav om, third girl, keep your voice down, it's bad to be heard. Tomorrow, the boudoir school, which has been suspended for a month, will start classes. After that, the second girl will not be able to go out with the eldest girl. The girl will bear with this day." Thinking of the homework assigned by her husband before returning to her hometown this time, Xie Zhiqian's eyes lit up, making Xie Zhihui so proud that she will cry tomorrow. Xie's carriage arrived at State Bridge Street, and it was very slow. The weather is good today, and there are many people going out for shopping. Jugglers on the street, sellers of candied haws, pickers. I can see that Xie Zhiwei and sisters are reluctant to blink their eyes, and the sounds of yelling and bargaining come and go. The coldness of the cold palace was so far away that it made Xie Zhiwei feel like a dream. "Big sister, there is a bookstore over there, let's go and have a look." Xie Zhihui took Xie Zhiwei's hand, and the two entered a bookstore called Jixiantang on the street. There was a large table at the door, and the shopkeeper was not behind the table, and there were quarrels among the bookshelves inside. You say that your Biopussy inner chapter is an engraved copy of the previous dynasty, and you want 20 taels of silver. What evidence do you have? Xie Jiwei stopped when he heard the 5 words of Baopuzi Nei Pian. This book is a Taoist classic, written by Gu Hong, the ancestor of Taoism. Although there are many Taoist theories on alchemy, medicine and Taoism are not separated. Xie Jiwei has a manuscript copy of Biopussy Inner Chapter, which is the silent version of the ancestors of the Chui family. There is a sentence in it that she has always felt is a little problematic. If there are different versions of the book, she can check it for correctness. Young Master, as we all know, after the capital moved southward in the previous dynasty, Ronglialang Bookstore was famous for engraving classics and history books. The book, Biopussy Nei Pian, printed and published by Ronglialang Bookstore was printed with the words, plaque note. The old Tokyo Daxiangwo Temple Dongrong Liulang's family lived in the east of Zhongwanan Street in Linnan Prefecture, and opened a shop for printing and translating scriptures and history books. Today, the old edition of the capital's Biopussy is corrected and published, and there is no mistake in it. Please accept the books from all directions, good deeds, good luck give Algae Mirror. This book is engraved on the June day of Renshin year in Shaoxing. Everyone who loves books knows this. Rong Lulang Bookstore was famous in the former dynasty. After moving to the south, the bookstore was burned down on June 1st, Renshin year. Although some books were rescued, there were very few of them. As expected, if he survived, 20 taels of silver would indeed be worth it. The shopkeeper said it's well known, why doesn't the young master know about this? The person who spoke was slow, and Xie Jiwei could even imagine that this person might be waving a folding fan and saying this in the cold weather, which could kill people. Sure enough, the shopkeeper couldn't speak a word for a long time, which showed that he was angry. Just tell me, in this medical book, is there a method that can turn a very fragrant spice into a very smelly one? Xie Jiwei's heart skipped a beat. Rationality dictated that she should go out and leave now, so that no one inside would find out that she had been there. However, her curiosity made her wonder, who is this person? If she didn't break in by herself, she would have doubted that this was a bureau just waiting for her. Well, my son was joking. Although the young one sells books, he doesn't like to read books on weekdays. It's okay to read Chinese books, but this kind of medical books can't be read by small ones. The shopkeeper apologized. Dare to say for a long time, are you lying to me to buy it? I'm not a doctor, what am I buying this medical book for? The shopkeeper was cursing in his heart. It was clear that this son came in and asked if he had any medical books here, and if he had any, he would take them out to see, the older the better, so he took out this treasure of the shop, thinking that and make a lot of money. Young master, wishing to see, is a scholar. Isn't there a saying that if you don't have a good look, you can be a good doctor? That's what the Chui family said. My young master doesn't have such ambitions. The voice smelled familiar. The more familiar it was, the sooner Xie Jiwei should leave, and not let the people inside come out to see him. She gestured to her second sister, and was turning around to walk towards the door, when the person inside had already stepped out of the door and shouted, Miss Xie. Xie Jiwei's body stiffened for a while, and she knew it was this person. Why, I haven't seen Miss Xie for a day, don't you know me? Xie Jiwei had no choice but to turn his head slowly, and said to Xiao Sun, Your Majesty, what a coincidence. Unfortunately, this king is here to buy medical books. I heard that the Chui family has famous doctors for generations. Miss Xie must have a little understanding of medical theory. I wonder if I have heard that some incense will become very smelly after being prepared. Xiao Sun was wearing a gown of python woven brocade with a blue background, and because it was not as good as the wheat crown, his crow-black hair was with a bright purple ribbon and thrown behind his head. The youth was full of vigor, like the sun rising in summer, burning and compelling. Xie Jiwei looked at this face that was enough to fascinate people, but he couldn't feel happy anyway, and glanced at Xiao Sun's waist. It was a pity that this person didn't like to wear sachets. Xiao Sun felt the occasion and exaggeratedly touched his waist, pinched the hanging Chinese jade, smiled, and seemed to say, "What a pity. Is there such a miracle?" Xie Jiwei asked in surprise. She had a toothache. Yes, yes. Su Liang, the eldest son of Yang Xinbo, came out wearing a moon-white brocade robe, waving a folding fan. The two sisters, Xie Jiwei and Xie Jiwei, were veiled. He was not curious about who they were, so he said to himself, "The two girls don't know that a strange thing happened in the palace yesterday. Someone tampered with the good sachet of His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince, and the incense turned stinky, polluting the Emperor's dragon nose." Xie Jiwei looked at Xiao Sun in shock, squinting slightly, with a dangerous look in his eyes. "This is impossible," she calculated very accurately, "it is impossible to leave traces unless, could it be that Xiao Sun discovered her when she started, and Xiao Sun tipped off the news?" Seeing Xiao Sun's phoenix eyes that seemed to be smiling but not smiling, Xie Jiwei's back felt a chill suddenly. She was fooled. This person knows the arrival of autumn when a leaf falls, and his own reaction falls in his eyes, and he no longer tells himself. What a powerful calculation. He obviously didn't do anything, just a little coaxing. She and Su Liang became his pawns, and played a game spontaneously according to his intention. Xie Jiwei. "Xiao Sun, are you a dog nose?" "Xiao Sun. If I ask for a ticket, can you smell it for me?" End of this chapter. Chapter 29. Porcelain. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 29. Touching porcelain. All explanations and cover.ups will only serve to cover up in front of this person. Xie Jiwei took a deep breath, suppressed the palpitations in his heart, and smiled. "Your Majesty, although the Chui family has been famous doctors for generations, and I know a thing or two about medical skills, I can only follow the scriptures and dare not try. After all, the medicinal materials in the world, the monarch and ministers assist the envoys, the four phenomena are in balance, one cannot be wrong. Even though I am young, I know that life and death are at stake. Miss Xie makes sense." Xiao Sun nodded slightly, with a look of great agreement. He was about to lift his foot, and seemed to think of something again. "Miss Xie must have come to buy books. Just now, we saw a book. The medical books are left over from the previous dynasty. Miss Xie might as well read them." Xie Jiwei thanked her, since she has money anyway, and when she encounters a good book, of course she will not spare the money and rush in. Ouch! Behind him, there was a cry of pain. Xie Jiwei retracted his feet before he could step into the door, turned his head to look, and saw Su Liang, who was originally healthy, leaning on the bookshelf, huddled into a ball, and was slumping on the ground. It seemed that the pain was unbearable, while the second younger sister stood aside with a pale face, trembling with fright. "What's going on?" Xiao Sun frowned and asked. It hurts, I'm going to die." "Fifth brother, I'm poisoned, she poisoned me, I'm going to die." Su Liang's face was ruddy, but he pointed a trembling finger at Xie Jiwei. You are talking nonsense. Where did I get the poison?" It seems that Xie Jiwei, the perpetrator, is even uglier than Su Liang, the victim. Punci is so unscrupulous and familiar. It seems that this is not the first time Su Liang has done such a thing. The shopkeeper shrank to the side and didn't dare to speak. With a bitter face, he said in his heart that he was unlucky. He didn't say that he didn't make a deal, and he still had such a scoundrel. He said, "How many young masters in the world are there? Are you willing to study hard?" It is clear that this son is relying on these two young ladies. Looking at the temperament of these people, you can tell that no matter which side he is, he can't afford it. "Miss Xie, just now you said that you know a thing or two about medicine. Why don't you help Su Liang see if this poison is serious? Will it hinder life?" Xie Jiwei took a deep look at Xiao Sun. She walked over, squatted down. Su Liang had already stretched out his wrist tremblingly, rolled up his sleeves, revealing a small part of his arm. Su Liang is well known as a dandy in Beijing. He can't be successful without being civilized, but he has cultivated a good skin. This skin is better than some girls, and the skin is as thick as fat. Xie Zhihui took a step forward, grabbed a rag from the table and put it on Su Liang's arm. Su Liang's arm trembled in fright, and the rag fell to the ground, but luckily it didn't get on his arm. This girl actually wanted to put a rag on his arm. Was she trying to kill him? Hey, what are you doing? Can't you see how dirty this cloth is? After Su Liang finished cursing, he covered his chest with his hands, looking in pain. Oh, I'm going to die, I'm poisoned. Big sister, he is playing a rascal, he is clearly a rascal. Xie Zhihui was extremely wronged. She has gained some knowledge. It is unreasonable that there are such people in the world. Xie Zhihui patted the second younger sister on the back lightly, telling her to be calm, and felt that it was not useless to bring her out to see this scene today. Shopkeeper, please lend me a silk thread. Xie Zhi said slightly. The shopkeeper hurriedly took out a thread slightly thicker than embroidery thread from the drawer to Xie Zhihui, and asked, "Girl, may I use it?" It was originally just a prop. Xie Zhihui nodded and said, "Yes. Please help the shopkeeper to tie this thread to this patient's arm." Xiao Sun stood with his hands behind his back, watching the shopkeeper tie one end of the silk thread to Su Liang's wrist. Xie Zhihui held the other end of the silk thread with one hand, and rested 3 fingers on the silk thread with the other hand, holding his breath intently, like a pulse-diagnosing doctor. It looks like that. Hanging thread pulse diagnosis. Su Liang's eyes widened, he couldn't believe it. Isn't this just playing him? Xie Zhihui's brows became tighter and tighter. After about 10 breaths of time, she took a deep look at Su Liang. This glance made Su Liang's heart skip a beat, and he couldn't help asking, are you really sick? Xie Zhihui ignored him, but said to the shopkeeper cautiously, "Please help him change his arm." Su Liang stretched out his other arm cooperatively, and the shopkeeper tied the silk thread around his wrist again. This time, the shopkeeper was a little nervous, and accidentally tied the silk thread into a knot. The heir of the Chui family, even if he is only 10 years old, may not be without real skills. The Chui family's meridians and acupuncture are well known all over the world. Xie Zhihui frowned for a while, squinted for a while, and it took longer and longer. Su Liang was about to break out in a cold sweat, and just now he saw her sigh. Shaoyin is very moving, the qi pulse is smooth, and the slippery disease does not dissipate. This is the Huamai. The shopkeeper was squatting, and when he heard this, he fell down and fell on all fours. What do you mean? Su Liang became anxious and jumped up. Can you explain clearly? I am really seriously ill. Xie Zhihui seemed very unhappy that Su Liang questioned her medical skills, and said angrily, "The massage is smooth and smooth like a ball. How could I make a wrong diagnosis with such an obvious pulse condition? This is an incurable disease. If Mr. Su doesn't believe it, you can please be smart." Su Liang saw that the shopkeeper was so frightened, thinking, the shopkeeper is old, knowledgeable, and knows the seriousness, so he is so frightened. He regretted dying. If he had known earlier, he would not have touched porcelain. Well, he had this incurable disease. He was young and hadn't married yet. Wouldn't it be a pity if he died? Su Liang didn't doubt Xie Zhihui at all. The other party recognized his identity at a glance. According to fifth brother, Miss Xie was also related to the Chui family. She said that she knew a thing or two about medical skills, which should be just a humble statement. Who is killing him? Could it be the ants at home? There is absolutely this possibility. When he dies, the position of heir son will be given up. As a dude, he plays with cats and walks dogs every day, asks for anecdotes and gossip, and he knows too much about the dirty things in rich and powerful families. Fifth brother, what should I do? Sure enough, if you do too many bad things, you will still be punished. Su Liang raised his sleeves and wiped away his tears, weeping heavily. Xiao Sun with a dark face, gave Xie Zhihui an angry look. turned around and went out the door. He can't afford to lose this person. When Su Liang saw Xiao Sun's posture, he thought that Xiao Sun was in a bad mood when he heard that he was dying. Thinking that there were still people who pitied him, Su Liang felt a little better. "Fifth brother, tell me, what poison did my aunt poison me? Is it okay if I don't want to be the son of the world? I have been working hard to reduce my sense of existence, why are they still endless? Tell me Dad, how old are you, and you carry them home one by one. Uncle Yongxin's mansion is a little bigger, and there are almost 10 ants living in a yard. Which ant my father will sleep with every night, and whoever is in the house give up the position, why bother? It's all right now, I'm going to kill my own son." Su Liang vented all his sorrow and anger on his father. Xiao Sun was annoyed by his nagging. Just in front of him was Huichun Hall. He said in a cold voice, "The front is Huichun Hall, if you want to spare your life, go let's see." "Thank you fifth brother reminded me well, who is not afraid of death." Su Liang blew his nose and wiped it on his body, and it didn't feel dirty anymore. He is going to die, so why bother? One more. End of this chapter. Chapter 30. Dead. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 30. Death in Huichun Hall. Dr. Chen is attending today. Seeing Xiao Sun and Su Liang coming, Dr. Chen rushed out to greet him. "You two, please come inside, what's wrong?" Su Liang said with snot and tears, "I just met a doctor, and she diagnosed me with an incurable disease." Dr. Xiao Chen knew Su Liang in the past, and he also knew that Xiao Sun and Su Liang were close. Although Su Liang was a bit of a dude, but because he worked in the Wucheng Army in Horse Division, he took care of this area and took care of Huichun Church. Upon hearing this, little Dr. Chen was extremely cautious, and hurriedly took the guiding pillow and placed it under Su Liang's wrist. He rolled up his sleeves, leaned carefully for a while, and began to wonder if he was not good enough. After all, how can ordinary doctors casually make the conclusion of incurable disease? Su Liang felt ashamed when he saw Dr. Chen like this. If a doctor says that he has an incurable disease, it may be a misdiagnosis, but what if there are two people in succession? Are they all misdiagnosed? Xiao Sun also took it a little seriously. He didn't believe in Xie Zhiwei. He used thread to diagnose pulse and so on, playing tricks. It looked like he was fooling Su Liang. But Su Liang is a weak believer. If he is not allowed to find a doctor he trusts for another consultation, the word incurable disease may become his heart disease. If you are not sick, you will be scared to get sick. Otherwise, where would Xiao Sun find time to play with him? But if Dr. Chen also diagnosed an incurable disease, it would be no fun. "Master Su, change hands." Little Dr. Chen dared not neglect. After changing another hand, Dr. Chen used almost half a cup of tea. Su Liang was sweating all over, so he withdrew his hand and asked, "Mr. Su, can you tell me what the doctor said again?" "Little one, listen. How can I remember what she said about the pile of book bags that she dropped? It can't be true, right? Could it be that I'm really terminally ill?" The more Su Liang thought about it, the more frightened he became, and he yelled, "My mother," covering his face and crying started to cry. Xiao Sun has a good memory. He pondered for a moment, and repeated what Xie Zhiwei said word by word. Seeing that the smile on Dr. Chen's face couldn't hold back, he realized that it was really the girl who gave it a rinse. Young master said, "That doctor can still diagnose pulse with silk thread?" Dr. Xiao Chen asked. Su Liang also noticed something strange at this time, stopped crying, looked at Dr. Chen, his eyes were full of expectation. If it is really Huamai, Mr. Su is really suffering from an incurable disease. Neither of the two young masters is married, so it is no wonder that they have never heard of Huamai. Xiao Sun had a bad premonition in his heart. Su Liang asked stupidly, "What's going on with Huamai?" The Huamai governs phlegm retention, food stagnation, excessive heat and other syndromes, and also governs pregnancy. If a woman without disease sees a Huamai, it can be judged as pregnancy, which is commonly known as the shimai. Dr. Xiao Chen can be sure that this doctor must be teasing the two young masters. Mr. Su is in good health, and the doctor said, Xiaoyin is moving very much, the qi pulse is smooth, and the slippery disease does not dissipate. This is clearly the pulse condition of shimai. Shimai. Su Liang jumped up. He couldn't understand Huamai, so couldn't he understand shimai? She's really playing tricks on me. Okay, little girl Pianzi, I've settled the relationship with her, let's see how I deal with her next time I meet her. Su Liang rolled up his sleeves, impatiently rushing out to get back the scene, but fortunately he was still a little sensible. Xiao Sun was still there. He asked, fifth brother, we can't just let her go like this. So, why did you ask her sister to touch porcelain? Xiao Sun asked the staff of Huichun Hall to serve tea for the two of them. Xiao Sun picked up the teacup, took a sip slowly, and asked, did I ask you to find her sister? Fifth brother, the conscience of heaven and earth, I also want to help fifth brother. She refused to admit that she knows medical skills, so I deliberately forced her to show her skills. Who would have thought that the girl was too cunning, pretending, and almost scared him to death? I want to go to you, I won't go. However, I will put my words here, if you are beaten by her, you are not allowed to find helpers, and you are not allowed to hurt her, otherwise, I will not obey. No way, fifth brother, I can't hurt her, how can I get revenge? She didn't show mercy to me, and you saw it today, I was covered in cold sweat, and I would make up for it if I didn't drink 2 bowls of pigeon red date soup today, not coming back. Xiao Sun didn't speak, just looked at Su Liang coolly. Su Liang couldn't stand it anymore, he cupped his hands and said, fifth brother, I admit it to the head office, can't I hide from her in the future? Su Liang's eyes were sharp, he glanced outside, saw the two sisters Xia Jiwei approaching this way, he hurriedly pulled Xiao Sun up, fifth brother, hurry up, hide away, I really can't afford to lose this person. Let people know that he actually believed in the happy pulse, and even went to Huichun Hall for another diagnosis, so it is better to let him die. Xiao Sun couldn't afford to lose it either, so without saying a word, he picked up his teacup and went to the inner room of Huichun Hall, telling Dr. Chen, don't say we are here. Little Dr. Chen is not stupid, just now he heard that it was a girl who played tricks on the two young masters, and when he saw the two sisters Xia Jiwei coming in, he hurriedly greeted them, the two girls are here to fetch medicine. It took only 20 taels of silver to find a medical book from the former dynasty. After Rong Lulang bookstore published Biopuzi Inner Chapter, before it could be sold, Linen was attacked. A war burned Rong Liulang's bookshop to clean. It was originally burned, and I thought that this printed copy would also disappear, but unexpectedly, it was found by her. More importantly, this Biopuzi Inner Chapter is exactly the same as the one written by the ancestors of the Chui family. I think I didn't understand it thoroughly. The joy of getting this book dilutes the depression of being plotted by Xiao Sun just now. Xia Jiwei is in a good mood, and the two sisters walked in talking and laughing. Xia Jiwei handed the proposed prescription to Dr. Chen, please follow this prescription. Dr. Chen took the prescription and looked at it carefully. The more he looked at it, the more frightened he became. As the saying goes, medicine is 3-point poisonous, but this medicated diet formula has 4 elements in balance, and has no harm to the human body. It can calm heart palpitations and strengthen lung qi. For some middle-aged and elderly people, it is simply a good prescription for prolonging life. Little Dr. Chen asked the shop assistants to grab the medicine, and asked cautiously, girl, may I ask who wrote this medicinal recipe? Excuse me, do you have any questions? Xia Jiwei knew that Huichuntang was opened by a father and son, and this person should be the son at the moment. Lao Tzu, old Dr. Chen, was taught by her uncle, and his medical skills and ethics are very good. No. Little Dr. Chen waved his hand quickly, this medicinal recipe is extremely clever, and the lobelia is even more wonderful. I wonder if Miss can let us borrow this recipe. Prescriptions are originally used to cure diseases and save people. If they can be useful to people, why not? Xia Ji smiled. Thank you, Miss Gao Yi. Little Dr. Chen cupped his hands and saluted. From now on, whenever the girl comes to Hui Chun Hall to get medicine, it will be free of charge. Big sister, there are such good things. Xia Zhihui is still a little young, and only saw the benefits given by Dr. Chen, but didn't understand the deep meaning behind Dr. Chen's move. Therefore, he only thought it was good. Xia Ji smiled for a moment, non-committal, just quietly waiting aside. Second update, ask for tickets, please collect. End of this chapter.